God damn.
Jesus.
I'm so sorry. I was like, I just got a shower.
Oh,
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay, open the
yeah,
door.
we've been knocking.
Well, I rent this place.
What's your name?
My name's Jaslyn.
Where's Monique at?
Monique is she like I'm house sitting right now. She left town for a while.
Where is she? No, she didn't. Where is she?
No, she really did. I swear.
Okay, where is she?
I mean,
Her car's here.
I know her car's here. She has me house sitting. I have I got my rent receipts.
You're not supposed to be here. Come outside.
Huh?
Come outside.
She doesn't have anyone here.
No, I have rent receipts right here actually.
Okay, come outside.
Well, I'm
let's
not coming
talk.
outside right now. I have paperwork that I'm supposed to be here. Like, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah, you need to come outside and show us that paperwork.
okay, I have paperwork right here, and I'm not going to come outside right now. Though. I have legal rights.
Where's it locked at? It's right here. I think.
Yeah, let's go. Key on it. Is it a Outback?
You go, yeah, you cover the back. I swear, God.
I can smell it already.
I know the smell.
What's that?
I can tell that smell.
What's that?
I smell something bad.
Oh, motherfucker. I swear to God, bro. My heart's racing right now.
Mine too.
Fuck, bro.
But what would you do if someone knocked on your door asking for help? Would you open it? Would you trust a stranger? On a seemingly ordinary day in Las Vegas, 68-year-old Monique Gilbertson made a decision that would cost her everything. She offered a helping hand to someone she met at Home Depot. But instead of gratitude, she received betrayal. Instead of companionship, she found danger living under her own roof. This is the story of how an act of kindness turned into a nightmare that shocked an entire community. A story of trust broken, a life stolen, and a discovery so disturbing that even seasoned investigators struggled to comprehend what they found. What they discovered in that freezer in November 2024 would reveal not just a body, but a web of lies, substance abuse, and a cold calculation that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about helping strangers. Welcome back, family. I'm here to bring you the facts behind the headlines. As an investigative reporter, I've covered countless cases, but the story of Monique Gilbertson stands out for its sheer betrayal of human trust. Today, we're going deep into this case that has left Las Vegas reeling and families forever changed. If you're someone who wants to understand how these tragedies happen and what warning signs we all need to watch for, you're in the right place. Before we dive into this disturbing case, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't miss the shocking details that emerge as this story unfolds. The information we're about to share could save someone you know from making the same fatal mistake Monique made. Las Vegas, November 2024. The sun beats down on the 55-plus mobile home park in East Las Vegas, where residents expect peace and quiet in their golden years. This isn't the glittering strip with its bright lights and endless possibilities. This is where working people come to retire, where fixed incomes stretch just far enough, where neighbors look out for each other. Monique Gilbertson lived in this community
I'm coming to work next
untraced
week, guys.
Piedras.
She talks to the front office like 3 times a day. They haven't heard from her since the 22nd. She never leaves without her dog, who's sitting right here. Nobody else lives here. Her vehicle's sitting here. We hopped the wall to look at the vehicle. The vehicle had a male's hat and some rope in it. Dude, I knew it was bad, dude. We were seeing like little ice chests all over the house.
At 68 years old, she had seen her share of life's ups and downs. But what many people didn't know was that Monique's recent years had been particularly challenging. She had struggled with personal demons, battled addiction, and faced the kind of hardships that can break a person's spirit. But here's what makes this case so heartbreaking. Despite her own struggles, Monique still had a generous heart. She was the type of person who would help a stranger in need. On what seemed like an ordinary day, she was shopping at Home Depot when she encountered someone who appeared to need assistance. That someone was Daniel Roush, a 37-year-old who also went by the name Jaslyn. Roush presented himself as someone down on his luck, someone who needed a place to stay and was willing to work for it. To Monique, this seemed like a perfect arrangement. She needed help around the house, and here was someone offering to trade work for shelter. What could go wrong with such a simple arrangement? Everything, as it turns out. Everything. Picture this scenario. You're at a hardware store, struggling with your own daily challenges, when you meet someone who seems genuinely in need. They're articulate, they seem trustworthy, and they're offering to help you with tasks you can no longer handle on your own. What do? Monique Gilbertson said yes. She opened her home to Daniel Roush, believing she was making a mutually beneficial arrangement. Roush would help with household tasks and maintenance, and in return, he would have a roof over his head. It seemed reasonable. It seemed safe. But within days of Roush moving in, things began to change. The helpful stranger became something else entirely. Instead of the grateful house guest Monique expected, she found herself dealing with someone whose behavior grew increasingly concerning. Neighbors later reported seeing strange activity around Monique's home. There were people coming and going at odd hours.
Okay.
Does that go through to the kitchen? Other side?
I'll come in to work next week, guys. She talks to the front office like 3 times a day. They haven't heard from her since the 22nd. She never leaves without her dog, who's sitting right here. Nobody else lives here. Her vehicle's sitting here.
The woman who had always been somewhat reclusive seemed to have disappeared entirely from view. What was happening behind those closed doors? How quickly can a simple housing arrangement turn into something sinister? And why didn't anyone realize that Monique Gilbertson was in terrible danger? The answer to these questions would only become clear weeks later, when concerned community members finally demanded answers about their missing neighbor. Think about the last time you saw your neighbor. Was it yesterday? Last week? At what point would you become concerned if you never saw them again? In a community of older adults, these questions take on a different urgency. Monique Gilbertson simply vanished from her normal routines. No one saw her collecting mail. No one spotted her coming or going from her mobile home. But here's the chilling part. Daniel Roush was still there, still living in her house, still acting as if everything was perfectly normal. When people asked about Monique, Roush had ready answers. She had left town for a while, he claimed. She was visiting family. She needed some time away. These explanations seemed plausible enough to buy him more time. But time for what? What was Roush really doing during those weeks, when he had Monique's home to himself? The investigation would later reveal a timeline so disturbing that it challenges everything we think we know about human nature.
Jesus.
I'm so sorry. I was like, I just got a shower. Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, we've been knocking
Well, I rent this place.
What's your name?
My name's Jaslyn.
Where's Monique at?
Monique is I'm house sitting right now. She left town for a while.
Where is she? No, she didn't. Where is she?
No, she really did. I swear.
Okay, where is she?
I mean,
Her car's here.
I know her car's here. She has me house sitting. I have I got my rent receipts.
You're not supposed to be here. Come outside.
Huh?
Come outside.
She doesn't have anyone here.
No,
Okay,
I have rent receipts right here actually.
Okay, come outside.
Well, I'm
let's
not coming
talk.
outside right now. I have paperwork that I'm supposed to be here. Like, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah, you need to come outside and show us that paperwork.
okay, I have paperwork right here. And I'm not going to come outside right now. Though. Like, I have.
According to police reports, Roush wasn't just living in Monique's house after she disappeared. He was living there with full knowledge of what had happened to her. He was going about his daily business, bringing his wife Gina Lopez to the house, entertaining guests, all while harboring a terrible secret. How does someone continue with normal life under such circumstances? How do you sleep at night? How do you look neighbors in the eye when they ask about someone you know will never answer another question? The psychological profile of someone capable of such behavior is both fascinating and terrifying. And if you think this story is disturbing so far, you haven't heard anything yet. November 6th, 2024, 11:41 a.m. Sometimes the most ordinary actions lead to the most extraordinary discoveries. A concerned community member placed a simple 911 call requesting a welfare check on Monique Gilbertson. They hadn't seen her in weeks, and something felt wrong. When Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officers arrived at the 5500 block of Tres Piedras Road, they expected a routine check. Maybe they'd find an elderly woman who had fallen ill, or someone who simply needed medical attention. What they found instead would haunt them for the rest of their careers. Daniel Roush answered the door with the same story he'd been telling neighbors. Monique had left town. She was fine. There was nothing to worry about. But police officers are trained to notice things that don't add up, and something about Roush's demeanor raised red flags. The officers asked to look around the house. This is where the story takes a turn that will test your faith in humanity. As they walked through Monique's mobile home, they noticed something that seemed out of place. There was a freezer and it was locked. Why would someone lock a freezer? What could be inside that required such security? When officers asked Roush about the locked freezer, his explanations became increasingly agitated and contradictory. Can you imagine what was going through those officers' minds as they prepared to open that freezer? Can you picture the moment when they realized they weren't dealing with a missing person case anymore, but something far more sinister? The body of Monique Gilbertson was inside that freezer. The woman who had opened her home to a stranger, who had offered help to someone in need, had been reduced to evidence in her own murder case. But the discovery of her body was just the beginning. The investigation that followed would reveal details so shocking that even experienced detectives struggled to process what they were learning. When police discover a body in a freezer, they know they're dealing with premeditated concealment. This isn't a crime of passion where someone panics and calls 911. This is calculated. This is cold. This requires planning and a complete absence of conscience. Daniel Roush was immediately arrested and charged with murder. But as investigators began digging deeper, they uncovered a story that was even more disturbing than they initially imagined. Here's what the evidence revealed. Monique Gilbertson had died from an overdose of substances laced with fentanyl. But this wasn't a case of accidental drug use gone wrong. According to the investigation, Roush had deliberately purchased these dangerous substances and given them to Monique. Think about that for a moment. Someone opened their home to this man, provided him shelter and security, and in return, he allegedly provided her with the very substances that would end her life. The betrayal is almost incomprehensible. But it gets worse. After Monique died, Roush didn't call for help. He didn't try to save her. Instead, according to police reports, he moved her body into the freezer and continued living in her house as if nothing had happened. For weeks, possibly a month or more, Roush went about his daily routine while Monique's body remained hidden in that freezer. He brought his wife to the house. They used Monique's utilities, ate her food, and slept in her beds, all while knowing exactly what was in that locked freezer. How does someone maintain such a facade? What kind of mental state allows a person to live normally while concealing a body? These are questions that investigators and psychologists are still trying to answer. If you think Daniel Roush acted alone in this horrific crime, think again. The investigation revealed that his wife, Gina Lopez, was not just aware of what had happened to Monique Gilbertson. She was actively involved in covering it up. According to police reports and grand jury testimony, Lopez admitted to helping Roush purchase the substances that killed Monique. She knew about the drugs. She knew they were dangerous. And she knew what happened when Monique used them. But perhaps most disturbing of all, Lopez confessed that she knew Monique's body was in the freezer for at least 4 days. 4 days of living in that house, knowing a deceased person was just steps away and saying nothing to authorities. Grand jury transcripts reveal that Lopez even helped Roush move Monique's body into the freezer. This wasn't someone who was forced to stay silent out of fear. This was someone who actively participated in concealing a death and obstructing justice. What kind of relationship dynamic allows two people to engage in such behavior together? How do you look at your spouse and decide together that hiding a body is preferable to calling police? These questions reveal a level of moral bankruptcy that's difficult for most people to comprehend. Lopez has been indicted on drug and burglary charges in connection with Monique's death. Her testimony to the grand jury provided crucial evidence in building the case against her husband. But her cooperation with authorities came only after weeks of living with the secret of what they had done. If this case is making you feel unsettled about the people you trust, you should be unsettled. If you're starting to question whether you really know your neighbors, your friends, or even your family members, those feelings are valid. Because this case demonstrates that some people are capable of behavior that seems impossible to predict or prevent. Let's walk through what investigators believe happened during those weeks when Monique Gilbertson's body was hidden in the freezer while Daniel Roush continued living in her house. Picture this. Every morning, Roush would wake up in Monique's bed or on her couch. He would use her bathroom, eat food from her kitchen, watch television in her living room. And all the while, just feet away, her body remained in that locked freezer. When neighbors asked about Monique, Roush had to invent new lies. When utility companies called, he had to pretend to be someone else. When mail arrived, he had to intercept it. Every single day required him to maintain an elaborate deception that grew more complex as time passed. But here's what's most chilling. During this time, Roush wasn't just hiding out. He was actively living his life. He was socializing with his wife. He was conducting business. He was going about normal activities as if he wasn't sharing a home with a deceased person. Psychologists call this compartmentalization, the ability to separate different aspects of your life so completely that they don't interfere with each other. But compartmentalization on this level suggests something much more disturbing than simple coping mechanisms. The investigation revealed that Roush showed no signs of distress, guilt, or anxiety during this period. Neighbors who interacted with him described him as calm and normal. There were no red flags that would have alerted anyone to the horror happening inside that mobile home. This raises terrifying questions about how well we really know the people around us. How could someone appear so normal while concealing such a monstrous secret? And what does this tell us about our ability to identify dangerous people before they harm others? At this point, I need to ask you something. Are you subscribed to this channel? Because if cases like this teach us anything, it's that knowledge is power. Understanding how these crimes happen, recognizing warning signs, and staying informed about criminal behavior could literally save your life or the life of someone you care about. Don't wait until it's too late. Hit that subscribe button now, because the information we share here isn't just entertainment. It could be the difference between safety and becoming a victim yourself. Before we go any further into the investigation, we need to remember that this case isn't just about criminal behavior and legal proceedings. This is about a real person whose life was cut short by someone she tried to help. Monique Gilbertson was 68 years old when she died. Like many people her age, she had experienced both triumphs and struggles throughout her life. She had battled personal demons, including substance abuse issues that made her vulnerable to people like Daniel Roush. But here's what's important to understand about Monique. Despite her own challenges, she retained a generous spirit. She was someone who would help a stranger in need, even when she was struggling herself. That generosity, that basic human decency, is exactly what cost her life. Think about the cruel irony of this situation. The very quality that makes us human, our willingness to help others, became the weapon used against her. Roush didn't target Monique because she was wealthy or famous. He targeted her because she was kind. This pattern appears repeatedly in cases involving vulnerable adults. Predators specifically seek out people who are isolated, who have fewer social connections, who might be more trusting or desperate for companionship. Monique fit this profile perfectly. She lived alone in a mobile home community where people minded their own business. She had struggles that made her grateful for any help she could get. She was at an age where physical tasks around the house were becoming more difficult. All of these factors made her an ideal target for someone with malicious intentions. But we cannot let the circumstances of her vulnerability overshadow the fact that she was a human being who deserved to live out her remaining years in peace and safety. She deserved better than to die at the hands of someone she was trying to help. Her death represents a fundamental violation of trust that should outrage anyone with a functioning conscience. And if you're not feeling angry about what happened to Monique Gilbertson, you should be. As of May 2025, Daniel Roush faces 7 felony charges, including second-degree murder in connection with Monique Gilbertson's death. His trial is scheduled for October 2025, where a jury will determine whether the evidence supports a conviction. Roush has pleaded not guilty to all charges, despite the substantial evidence against him. This means that prosecutors will need to present their case in court, walking a jury through the same disturbing timeline of events that we've been discussing. The prosecution's case relies heavily on physical evidence from the scene, testimony from Gina Lopez about their involvement in Monique's death, and forensic evidence about the substances that killed her. They'll need to prove not just that Roush was present when Monique died, but that he intentionally provided her with fatal substances. Defense attorneys typically argue in cases like this that the death was accidental, that their client panicked and made poor decisions, but never intended to commit murder. They might claim that Monique's history of substance abuse means she bore some responsibility for her own death. Forensic experts are working to determine how long her body was in the freezer, which could provide crucial evidence about Roush's state of mind and level of premeditation. Investigators are also examining whether this was Roush's first such crime, or whether there might be other victims who haven't been discovered yet. The psychological profile and behavioral patterns suggest someone capable of repeat offenses, and police are reviewing missing person cases from areas where Roush previously lived. The investigation has also revealed the extent to which Gina Lopez was involved in both the crime and the cover-up. Her cooperation with authorities came only after initial denials and lies, suggesting that even more details about this case may emerge during trial proceedings. Digital evidence, including phone records and surveillance footage from the surrounding area, is being analyzed to create a comprehensive picture of activities during the weeks when Monique's body was concealed. This technology often reveals details that witnesses miss or perpetrators think they've hidden successfully. The thoroughness of this investigation reflects the seriousness with which law enforcement treats crimes against vulnerable adults. But it also highlights how complex these cases become when perpetrators have weeks or months to destroy evidence and construct false narratives. At this point in our investigation into the Monique Gilbertson case, I have to pause and ask you directly, are you taking steps to protect yourself and your loved ones from predators like Daniel Roush? Because if this story has taught us anything, it's that evil often wears a helpful face and arrives when we're most vulnerable. Don't become another victim because you ignored the warning signs we're sharing. Subscribe to this channel now to stay informed about how these crimes happen and what you can do to prevent them.